Hey guys, and welcome. It's another live as per your guys' requests after we did one last week. So we're here with Stephen from The Slice. Stephen, how you doing?
Doing great, Faizan. Thanks for having me back on the show on QualityShot.
No worries, no worries. Of course, you've been you're in Europe at the moment, right? So Canadian in Europe at the moment, just traveling around, and you a lot of the tournaments and I guess the clay court swing as well. So I know you went to Rome as well, which looked amazing.
Yeah.
And last week in Stuttgart, this week, you were in Berlin for a little bit. And then I know next week you said probably not going to watch much tennis, but you're going to Mallorca anyway, which will be pretty nice. So who knows? Maybe you'll bump into Rafa if you're lucky. But
Who knows?
how's it been? How's it been the whole trip so far?
It's been the experience of a lifetime, I think. I'd never been to Europe before coming here at all. So it was, seeing I've watched all these events on TV before, and then just being able to go to them in person has been a dream come true. And I'm very lucky to be able to do this. I've been to the first one we went to was Monte Carlo. That was awesome. And then I went to the Stuttgart WTA, and then I went to Rome, and then and then where are we now? I don't know. I was in the UK, but then we went to like you said, Stuttgart last week again for the grass, and then I was in Berlin, Germany, for the WTA until a couple of days ago. Now I'm back home at my home base here in Switzerland, which is where I'm kind of stationed out of. So been very busy and kind of stressful in some ways, not having much downtime, but that's what I knew what I was getting into when I came out here. So yeah, it's been fun.
Yeah, probably hectic, but I'd imagine pretty rewarding as well. But I guess before we get into your experiences recently, like in the grass court swing, and then like get your thoughts on Wimbledon, etc. How was the clay court kind of swing? Or were you surprised as well, like how it went with like Rafa and stuff? You obviously saw a lot of the players. Like I know you interviewed a couple of them as well. And how was it in terms of seeing them at Rome and other tournaments? Were you watching and thinking like who are your picks? I guess going into Roland Garros, and were there surprises for you, or was it actually I've seen how people performing kind of in the flesh. I know this is pretty much the way it's going to go.
Yeah, I didn't see Rafa play at all in person because he, a lot of these tournaments, how it goes is like I kind of go there like the first weekend, while qualifying is going on, which is good because everyone's there. So the players are all practicing. I mean, except for Rome, because a lot of the players were still in Madrid at the time when I was in Rome. So Rafa, I'm not sure if he was there like before I got there, because I was basically there like the Friday, Saturday. But yeah, I saw like Djokovic warming up in person in Rome, and I kind of in Monte Carlo, which was his first tournament back. His first tournament on clay, other than I think he lost in Dubai early on. But yeah, I said to my followers on the Slice, I said, I don't like Djokovic looks pretty rusty. Like I don't think he's going to be doing too well right off the bat here, and that he lost first round or first match in Monte Carlo there. So, and I looked at a guy like Stefanos, and I thought like he's going to be a monster this year on clay, and he ended up winning Monte Carlo, but then lost to Carlos in Barcelona, and kind of I feel like got a bit of his confidence shaken by that, and then lost to Ruud in the French Open, which was like pretty shocking, I thought. And I didn't have like the big question going into the French Open was where's Rafa gonna be, where's Novak gonna be level wise, Carlos Alcaraz, what's he gonna do? I had picked, and going into from what I'd seen leading up to the French Open, I picked Novak to win. Actually, I picked Rafa at the start to win because I said it's ridiculous to not choose Rafa at the French Open no matter what, even if he gets wheeled in there on a wheelchair, which is basically what he happened. Like he basically rolled into the French Open with 1 foot and still won it, which is just like, those memes where it's all like in the year 2048, Rafa still, and he has like gray hair. I feel like we were making jokes like back in like 2012, being like, it's the year 2022 and Rafa's winning Roland Garros with one hand tied behind his back now. But he's basically he literally did it with like 1 foot basically. But before the match with Djokovic, I picked Djokovic to win based on what I'd seen. Djokovic had been rolling so far. Rafa, almost lost to Felix Auger-Aliassime. You know, he just didn't look anywhere near as potent as he had been, and then he came out, proved me wrong, and played the best match of the tournament against Djokovic for sure, and beat him pretty solidly. Like that. Like, what do you think, Faison? Like, when's the last time you saw Novak lose in 4 at a slam when he wasn't injured or just like, you know, he just got straight up outplayed?
Yeah, no, it doesn't happen very. I mean, I guess not on the clay and like when he's not got a lot of pressure on him. I guess the US Open obviously against Medvedev was a bit of that was a bit of a different one, I guess, because there was just so much pressure, and like even someone like him who's so good at handling it wasn't able to quite get over the line, and it just shows how hard it is to win the Canada Slam. And obviously, like Rafa's got a chance potentially because he's won the first 2 slams. He's never had that chance before, so that's a really interesting, I guess. Well, it's an interesting like point because, as you said, he has been injured. Like he's had injuries kind of here and there, but played with the injections, and I don't think he's going to do the same at Wimbledon. He's already said he's not going to. So, but most likely he's going to play in Mallorca, so we'll see. But in terms of Novak, I mean, it was just a little bit weird to see him not capitulate, but maybe mentally break down a little bit in that match. Like the crowd was clearly like playing on his mind, and I feel like that's the only weakness Novak has in his whole game is that he has this emotionally charged like relationship with the crowd, and sometimes it works and it's played its part in the past where he's kind of just used it to fuel him. But as he's gotten older, I feel like now it's a case of like he's thinking, you know what, I'm owed what's due. You know, I'm a 20 slam champion. Like I shouldn't be getting booed, and I get that he shouldn't be getting booed anyway. Like that's ridiculous. But I also do think like he probably shouldn't have expected the crowd to be on his side because it's Rafa. He's won it 13 times going into that. So there was just a little bit of, I think, after as well, he said, of course, he came back from 5-2 down the 4th set because the crowd was behind him. He was like 99.9% of them were cheering on Rafa. So it's not a surprise he came back. And I'm just thinking, but you never talk like that. Like you're always
that's not the Novak we know.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Yeah.
Like if he was 5-2 up and he lost a set, he'd be saying, "I should have won that set." Like I clearly like mentally, like he would have said like I threw it away, but instead he was almost like accepting of it, which is weird. So I think he was just fed up after that match, to be fair. But yeah, just not the kind of Novak we're used to seeing. But I doubt we're going to see him like that for the rest of the year because at Wimbledon he does have kind of a big enough following, and then the US Open as well, he will. So I would imagine he'll be fine. So I guess it'll be interesting going into Wimbledon. But yeah, I mean, I don't know as well what he's going to play. He hasn't. Do you know in terms of his schedule? Like, is he going to be? I know last year he just played Mallorca doubles, didn't he?
Yeah, he played Mallorca doubles. I don't know if he's going to be playing Mallorca this year. I think Sasha Osmo said that he's not playing anything before Wimbledon. So I think he's just going straight to Wimbledon, which he's actually won, I think, 5 of his 6 titles not playing any grass before Wimbledon. So it's
crazy, right?
He should be fine. Like the opening rounds at Wimbledon are so easy for especially for Federer and Djokovic, who have are grass court masters, and everyone else is just so not used to playing on the grass. Like those first rounds are just like nice warm up. So unless they get stunned by Sam Querrey or Sergey Stakhovsky like Federer did back in the day, but that's you don't have to worry about that. I don't think as much for Djokovic this year. But yeah, no, I don't think he's doing any pressure or warm-ups going into it. But yeah, like what you said about all that, yeah, it was just weird. Like it was, yeah, I think you're right. Novak's probably like, I think, and after the US Open where he kind of had that moment with the crowd where it was like a day of reckoning almost, like he was crying on the court, like actually so appreciative of them cheering for him. I think maybe he expected them to be on like a bit of a different place with that. But to me, like the crowd, like if you're watching that match when Federer or when Rafa came out, won the first set, played better, and then Novak came back in the second set from a down 3-0, I think the crowd was pretty even at that point. Like they were cheering for both guys, and I think they cheered the good points both ways. The thing was, like in the 4th set, yeah, he was up 5-2, and then so Rafa's down in that set. So the fans are just kind of always cheering for a comeback. So when Rafa's making that comeback, and Rafa's won it, he had won it 13 times at that point. So he's obviously the crowd favorite anyways. But you're right, it's just so weird. It was weird to see him be so bothered by that or like use it as an excuse basically,
Yeah.
when it's kind of in the story of his career. But you also can't blame him because if I had won 20 slams, you'd want a bit more.
Yeah.
You can't call it respect. Like Djokovic fans call it like disrespect. It's like, it's not disrespect. People, it's like, it's so weird, confusing team sports with individual sports. But like I think in these crowds, they take the sides of the player and they treat it like the team that they're cheering for. So they're going to cheer for their guy and not cheer for the other guy a lot of the times. And some, like in tennis, we see that as like disrespect sometimes, but it's like, it's just the way that fans are, I think. Like in sports, it's, I don't know.
Yeah, I think I definitely agree. The only thing that I would say is like is disrespectful is the booing, because I've never seen anyone get booed like whilst walking onto court. And I was doing the commentary for it. I didn't actually hear it myself, but then I remember after everyone was saying it, and I guess that was weird, right? Like that shouldn't really be the case, because I know you're saying that in team sports, and I get that, but at the end of the day, it's tennis, and like, can you remember anyone else getting booed like walking out? It almost felt like a bit like a soccer or like football kind of environment, which is weird. Like that kind of shouldn't be the case. If that makes sense, because that's not what tennis is going to be like.
I wonder how many people, like, I didn't hear the booing either. And like, I pitch, like, it's got to just be a few people, right, that are doing it. It's not like, I don't think it's like, it would be hard to believe that it would be more than like 10 or 20 people booing. And you're just going to hear those. Cause I was at Philippe Chatrier court a couple times during the French Open. And it's like, it's a big stadium, obviously, but if you yell, everyone in the stadium can hear you. Like, it's like, it's it's just a stadium. I don't know how to explain it, but like, he's a very polarizing guy, right? Djokovic, like especially in 2022. So there's going to be a few nuts in the crowd who like are super, mad that he, didn't take the vaccine or whatever, and they're going to boo him because of that. So yeah, it's like, I don't think it's representative of, it sucks that any boos came out, I think, because I do think that's disrespectful, especially for a guy who's won 20 slams. But I don't know. It was a tough match for Djokovic in that one. Great match for Rafa. I was amazed at how he played. Like, he just played his perfect match basically. And it's crazy.
Yeah, it is. And people here saying, he was booed when he entered the stadium. That part was disrespect, as Vanch, and saying even in the match versus Diego. Oh, interesting. I didn't know that. On long lane,
I think he actually got booed more against Diego. Yeah, that was I know.
That's Diego's a fan favorite, isn't he?
He is. Yeah, he's Argentinian, or no, he's
Argentinian. Yeah,
Argentinian, and so kind of, I think, the Spanish background.
Yeah, Spanish speaking. Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
but France is French, so I don't know what's going on.
Yeah, it makes no sense. It's just funny. There's obviously these links, like, they say it like Serbia and Italy, so that's why, like, Novak, I was saying that the three places he'd never get booed at, the crowd will probably always be on his side, is Italy, Serbia, and Australia, right? Because obviously his record with Australia and his home is Serbia, and Italy, like, he just seems to have some type of affinity. Like in Rome, he loved it, and he was speaking Italian, and they just kind of eat it up, like they just love it. They genuinely love it. But yeah, on the grass court swing, I guess, like last week in Stuttgart and stuff, what were you like? How was it, first of all? Like, I guess being there as well, and what did you? I know you obviously watched Steph as well, if I'm not mistaken, or you've watched a couple of the other players, and you got to speak to Shapovalov as well, which was interesting. We'll talk about him in a second, because he's been on not the best of runs, but I know he likes the grass, and I saw him last year actually in the quarterfinals against Khachanov, and he played a really good match. Obviously made the semis, and then probably had chances against Novak, which he probably will look back on now and think, oh, maybe regret a couple of those chances. But how was Stuttgart overall, and like, what are the findings? Any surprises in terms of people that you thought performing really well on grass that you weren't expecting, or what did you kind of find out for yourself personally?
No, Stuttgart was cool, and I had the media credentials, so I was like right in there, hearing what players were saying about the grass. Shapovalov, he was super excited to be on the grass after a tough end to his clay swing, even though he beat Rafa in Rome. But then, he ended up losing first round to Oscar Otta in a classic grass court match where he didn't do really anything wrong. It was just 7-6, 7-6, right? It was just two tie breaks, flip of the coin, and Oscar just played great tennis, just smashes like first serves, and then comes to the net like more than probably 70% of the time on his first serve. So very hard to do anything there. And those matches are short, right? So I think over 5 sets, if this was at Wimbledon, Chapo might have won both of the grass court matches he lost. here at Stuttgart, and then at Queens he lost to Tommy Paul as well. Just I don't know, because he's more physical, and I think he's a better tennis player than both those guys. Tommy Paul is very good though. But yeah, like the guys who I was interested in at Stuttgart, it was like everyone was there. It was great. Like Andy Murray was there, made the final. I saw him and I talked to him in press. Nick Kyrgios was there, obviously. Matteo Berrettini, the whole tournament was like about Matteo because it was the Boss Open in Stuttgart, like the new sponsor. So his face was literally everywhere. And I was actually staying at the tournament hotel. So it's cool. It was funny, like there was like a breakfast buffet. So I'm in like the breakfast buffet line, and we got like Hugo Humbert to the left of me and like Matteo Berrettini to the right of me in the line eating food. We're all just like, and like Shapovalov sitting like a table over from me. And so it's just like very like upfront. Like it's cool like to be there in the vibe and just see how these guys are preparing. And then Stefanos. I just talked about it on the slice. Like I can't figure out why Stefanos hasn't had the results on grass. And what everyone does is they say, well, he gets rushed on the back end. The courts are too quick for him. And I don't think that that's the case. I don't think it's that simple. Like it's more nuanced than that. To me, the big things are the return of serve with the backhand. Because that, from what I watched, like against Andy Murray, he just 90 probably, I'm just going off the top of my head, I don't actually know this, but 90% of the first serves that Andy Murray hit went to the backhand of Steph, and it was like pretty safe. It was either going to be like a chip or a block, but half the chips and blocks went into the net. So it was like, and Murray also served the lights out. Like he served very well. And Steph could have won that match. So, but my question to him, and I actually chatted with him outside, like because in the press conference I said, a lot of people think you don't like grass. And then he took that as like, oh, I've never said I don't like grass. So then afterwards I kind of went and I was like, I wasn't saying that you said you didn't like grass. I was saying that people think you don't like grass. He's like, okay, yeah, they'd be wrong. And I was like, yeah, I think your game's like suited for it. And he's like, yeah, I do too. And we actually like showed him a video on my phone that I had taken of him like diving in the practice in like a warm up with Feliciano Lopez, like almost killing himself. I was like, dude, can't injure yourself out there. But he's got the serve and the forehand. Like when he was playing Murray, every time Stefanos got a first serve in, like I think Murray in the first set won only 3 points on the Stefanos first serve, and he won the set in a tiebreak. So it was like unplayable first serve and forehand follow up. And every single first serve, Stefanos was hitting a forehand afterwards. That's the big key, like almost every single one. So like in that case, and I think like when Murray's a super good grass court player. He's won Wimbledon twice. We don't have to explain that. So like I think against any other player, he's winning that match almost. And then I think Stefanos, like he's just got to figure out the slice. Like he hits the slice open stance from the baseline. You know what I mean? And that basically you can get down the back of the ball, but you can't hit through it. So his slices come back with like they're not much pace and they're very spinny, but they usually just sit there and just can get roasted again. So like the difference, like the contrast, like Federer's slice is like a knife, right? Like it's not really, you don't want Federer to be slicing against you because that means you're going to be picking the ball up a foot off the ground and you just can't do anything with it. So it's like a great shot for Federer, but for Stefanos, it's like a liability. And I think that's like the real issue on grass because he wants to play slicing the ball because he knows that that's probably better than going over it all the time. But I think he should just go over it because his slice is so not reliable right now that it's not really working. So, Wimbledon's where it matters. So he lost early here. Stefanos is going to play Mallorca next. Or I think he is. He told me he's like, depending on what happens here, which he lost pretty early. And then he lost to Nick Kyrgios in Halle, which you covered. I think he'll play either Eastbourne or Mallorca. So, yeah, I don't know. That's kind of one of the guys I really focus on at the Boss Open. And it was funny, like during the Murray match, I sat like right beside his dad, basically like 2 seats over. So I was between the Murray box and the Stefanos box. Yeah, it's pretty interesting. Like literally, Stefanos' dad is constantly talking.
I was going to say the big question is, did you hear him coaching or not?
It's all in Greek, so I don't know what it is, but I'm sure I mean, he's saying, yeah, blah, 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 block, slice, block. He's like telling him he's telling him what to do. But to me, it's like,
I love it. God.
It's such a gray area. Like the umpire could just call it. The ATP could come sit, one of the off-duty line judges and sit them behind there and just make sure they're not doing it.
At
So
the
if they
Australian Open, they had someone who was Greek, and ATP officials basically they were standing in the tunnel like beneath him, so he didn't know
yeah,
he was there, and so he was speaking Greek, but the like ATP official could hear like what he was saying, and that's why he got the violation.
right.
So it's
Wow,
so interesting.
that is interesting. Maybe they don't have the wherewithal to do that at these smaller tournaments.
Yeah,
But I mean, it's like there's always coaching. Like it is, like is somebody saying between every point, all right, Nick, it's all good. Let's go next point. Like, is that not coaching? Like that's just encouraging.
yeah,
But he's telling him to like focus on the next point. That's like a mental tip, right? Like
yeah,
it's like
maybe, yeah.
it's always like, yeah, but I guess like Stefanos' dad's probably going, yeah, stand up on the baseline, just like slice these, like
I think when you say
backhand.
when it's that detailed, you're a bit like, oh, it's interesting.
Yeah,
But yeah, the slice part's really interesting. And actually, Gene's saying here, slice is too floaty, like you were saying, sits up on the grass. And
yeah,
Vanch saying Steph's been working on the slice for 3 years now with Patrick. But yeah, it's an interesting one. Like his slice, like yesterday when I was covering him versus Kyrgios, and I was thinking, I get your point about saying, maybe he's just drive for the backhand. I don't think he's super comfortable though taking it at his ankles, that one hander. Because on the clay, he's one of the only one handers I've ever watched that actually doesn't mind taking it at shoulder height. Like he doesn't mind that. He'll take it at shoulder height, he'll take it at kind of waist height. But I feel like the lower it gets, the kind of less comfortable he feels, like when it's that kind of like kind of ankle height. And the slice is interesting because you're saying about taking the open stance, and I guess if he doesn't want to look at someone like a Federer, then look at someone like a Berrettini. Like Berrettini doesn't have a particularly good backhand, but it's such an aggressive slice. Like he manages to kind of slice through it with a lot of pace and also get spin on it as well. And that's like it's such a useful like tool because it really does mask the weakness in his backhand, Berrettini, like on the grass. Whereas on other surfaces, he doesn't really have like the slice is potent, but not as potent obviously as it is on the grass. So I think like the serve forehand we know on the clay is like such a massive plus, and if he can do it on the grass, like as you said, he's going to have success because he's got one of the best serve 1+ players like in terms of serve and forehand like in the game, like genuinely he does. So
top 5 for sure.
Yeah, so it's just incredible.
Like, honestly, it could be like top 2. Like it's like so good on grass, and like when he's hitting his first serve, it's so good because he runs around his backhand better than anyone, I think.
Yeah.
Like he can hide that backhand even on grass. Well, like, yeah, when he's serving on grass, like there's a crazy stat Matthew Willis on Twitter put out. It was something I don't have it off the top of my head, but it was about what percentage of the time Stefanos is hitting a forehand after his first serve, even against Murray, who's like, one of the top all-time returners on grass.
Yeah.
And it was like Murray basically didn't get any balls to Stefanos' backhand on the first serve, like throughout the entire match. Like it was just like domination. So yeah, it's a weakness for him. And that's a good point, Faizan, about Berrettini's able to hide the weakness on his backhand. But I mean, like tactically, there's like enough balls that like you're going to get through a match that are like normal, like strike zone.
Yeah.
I feel like Stefanos should just hit through.
Yeah.
Like even Federer hits through more backhands than Stefanos was basically. And like, I'd say their top spin backhands are pretty like similar levels. So it's like, I feel like he's like, I should be slicing on grass because it's like a grass thing to do. And, like and maybe he's just trying to work on it too. Like, I don't know, but like he was like doing it so much and it's like, he doesn't get anywhere with it. So
yeah. It's definitely something to work on. I guess the interesting thing was that I was watching yesterday, and it's very true as well. The backhand return, like the block return, is just like it's not serviceable at the moment. He really does struggle with it, and Kyrgios like won a lot of points going into that side as well.
So it's also tough. It's probably a bit of a skewed thing because you're like it's Nick Kyrgios you're playing against.
Yeah.
Like, literally the best serve on tour. So it's like
Kyrgios and Murray have big first serves, especially on grass, right? So
yeah, and like Kyrgios has like probably like the biggest, and like he's like has the most accurate big serve. So it's like, takes like let's watch Stefanos at Wimbledon the first few rounds when he plays guys who don't serve that big and who aren't that good, and I think he's going to get rolling at Wimbledon. And I think if he wins 2 or 3 matches, then he'll start to get that confidence down, and then we'll see. And I think. Is it right that the courts slow down as the tournament goes on? I always forget because they get more chewed up.
Yeah, they slow down slightly.
I think that's going to help him if he can get because he played like what was it last year? He played.
He lost the first round.
TFO. Yeah, to TFO. Yeah, in the first round, those are quick courts. TFO likes a fast court, and TFO's a good player, right? He's got great hands. So That's a tricky first round match, obviously. So if with Stefanos, I think he'll be top 4 seed at Wimbledon. Is that right? Because
Yeah,
Zverev
because
and
because of Medvedev and Zverev. Yeah, exactly.
so
You're right.
he'll definitely get an easier first round than last year. So we'll see.
Yeah, no, agreed. I've got to ask you about Shapovalov. First of all, like, congrats on getting the interview. It's a really
Yeah.
good interview. Actually, I watched it. Do check it out, guys, if you haven't already. Obviously, it's on Steven's channel, The Slice. But yeah, like, he seemed like super confident in the way that you're speaking in terms of, like, on the grass, like very comfortable, like, and you could tell that he is comfortable. Like, when I watched him live last year, the only thing that I could point out was that his toss is just all over the place sometimes on his serve, and he doesn't like, because it's such a high toss as well. Like, the day that I went to watch the quarterfinals, the wind was like really strong on that day, and he was catching his toss a lot, and like you could tell like he wasn't particularly comfortable on it, and that's why he ends up hitting a few double faults. But generally, like, his game is suited for the grass. Like, obviously he's got a really good one-hander as well. He moves really well on the grass and seems to kind of just enjoy the surface generally. But his results, you said, obviously against Tommy Paul and Otter, like, yeah, okay, I get what you're saying. Like, he can lose those in a best of 3, but I guess probably not the best preparation, like, going into or like as we kind of approach Wimbledon. And since losing to Rafa at the Australian Open, he's really had like a really like bad patch, really. And I guess on the clay it was understandable. Now we're kind of approaching it. We're in the grass court swing. I think things are going to change. But what's your view on it as a Canadian as well, and obviously someone who's probably watched a lot of his matches and talking to him? Like, how do you think he's going to fare?
I think he'll be fine at Wimbledon. For the first, like, if he goes out first round, it's like full panic. It's like fire your entire team, like go into a meditation retreat in South America or something. Like, it's you gotta. But he's playing Mallorca next, anyways. But yeah, since the Australian Open, and he won the ATP Cup with Canada, made quarters at Australia, I think, right?
Yeah, Courts lost to Nadal in 5. Probably
Lost to Nadal in 5. Arguably, like, he wasted a lot of energy getting mad at something that he probably shouldn't have. And, I think Rafa was super beatable that day. Rafa was super beatable in like almost every match in that tournament, and he just kept winning. Like, Medvedev just like threw himself on the sword basically. But since then he lost. I think he made the semifinals of Dubai and then lost to somebody he shouldn't have lost to. And then it's been tough, and like, there's no real like rhyme or reason. It's the times he's lost when he shouldn't have, it's been because of the classic Shapovalov like weaknesses, where he just is very inconsistent on the day for whatever reason. But yeah, I'd call it the curse of Rafa. He beat Rafa on clay, and then he lost to Ruud, and then he lost in the first round in Geneva to Ivashka, and then he lost in the first round of Roland Garros to Holger Rune, and then he lost in the first round, of Stuttgart, and then Queens. But it's nuanced because there's pressure. Like, I don't know, like, it's obviously tough at the top of the game, but with Wimbledon points getting stripped this year, he told me, and I'd seen that in the media before, that it was on his mind going into the French Open. He didn't play the French Open 2021, if you remember. So he had any points he got there would be gained points for him. So he knew that he wouldn't be able to defend the points at Wimbledon, which is 720 points, which would drop him about 8 or 9 spots in the rankings, which, when you're top 15, that's a big deal, So he's like, oh, I can make up points here at the French Open if I make it, like, 4th round or something. But then he has Holger Rune, who's like world beater, like on the hottest streak ever in the first round. And he just played a terrible match because I think he felt that pressure, and Holger Rune's game is the exact game that would hurt Shapovalov, just the consistent, deep, heavy balls. Holger doesn't really beat himself as much usually. So that was tough. And then now it's just like, you just kind of, now it's like, oh, you lost another one. Now you've lost 5 in a row, and now it's a thing. I think it was definitely a thing versus Paul and Queens, because Queens, he also had a bunch of points to defend, which he, I guess, could have defended. Like, I think you're allowed, like, Queens keeps their point, or you're allowed to get points this year in Queens, right? So so I think he made semifinals at Queens as well last year. So he just lost all those points, and you draw Tommy Paul in the first round. That's no easy match. And yeah, even I like did a little bit of a live stream at the end. Like he had they came out for the final set the next day because of the darkness rule, and he held easily, and then he had Love 43 break points on the Tommy Paul serve and like lost that game, and then like lost the set, and then lost the match. And it's like, yeah, it's just a tough rut here for him. And it's not like there's nothing super wrong with his game that I can see. It's just like he's just lost 2 super tight matches on the grass and played poorly at the end of the clay swing. But yeah, I don't know. I think but now there's pressure because he's also with a new coach who's his friend, Peter Polansky, who isn't, he's a player technically still, Peter Polansky, like he hasn't retired, but he's kind of like, I talked to him in Geneva, and he said, he's just kind of thinking, he's like, well, maybe I want to like coach now because I'm getting old. I've always been a challenger player. So, coaching Shapovalov is obviously a big opportunity, top 15 player. But it's not going well. Like it's like the results. I mean, Rome was a great result. Like that was made I think quarters and beat Rafa. So that's like, oh, that's perfect. And then it's just since then 5 losses in a row. So yeah, they need some wins at Mallorca and at Wimbledon for sure.
Yeah.
I'd say.
No, agreed. And yes, Van, saying what you were saying. Remember, he changed coaches from Delgado to Polanski. He wasn't with Delgado for very long, was he? As well.
Yeah, and I don't know who initiated that change. I heard some gossip I actually heard some gossip on like the court, like the practice court of his in Geneva, and it was just like I didn't really catch exactly what was said, but it was like I'm not sure if Delgado just left or Shapovalov fired him, or like there was original rumors that he was just taking off the clay swing and he was going to come back for grass, but Peter Polansky didn't say anything. He said, "Yeah, I'm the full-time coach now." I was like, "Okay,
fair enough."
I don't know. I have heard that. The gossip I heard is that Jamie Delgado has done that before to other players, just like left them in like the middle of tournaments basically to go coach somebody else. So
that's
I don't
quite
know.
funny.
That's all hearsay, but that's a little nugget for the quality shot listeners.
Good gossip. Yeah, Jesus, can understand why Chapo is frustrated about Wimbledon, but at least he should win a few matches. He made a semis, obviously, against Norrie, lost there in Queens. And Tushar says, wouldn't be surprised if Chapo loses first round at Wimbledon either. Be surprised, as we were both saying. But yeah, Delgado's on a trial basis with Raducanu.
Is that true?
Not sure. I'll try to look that up.
But, I need sources, buddy. You can't just be. That's huge news.
That is huge news if that's the case. Actually, what we'll do is because I know you need to leave in a bit as well. So what we'll do is I just want to get your view on Berlin because we talked a little about Stuttgart, but Berlin also you talked to Andreescu for a second time as well. Seems to have a really good relationship with her as well. She seems really nice, by the way, as well. She seems like a really lovely person. So yeah, I mean, she's a great interviewee as well, to be honest with you. But what was the insight you got? Obviously, everyone, if you want to actually listen to the full interview and go over to Steven's channel and have a watch. But what was the feeling you got from her? Because she obviously had like a pretty good clay court swing, considering that she's not really played many matches on the clay. Like it was a good. I thought it was a good clay court swing. Some good wins there as well. Now going into Wimbledon, like it's a surface where again doesn't have much experience on it, but she's clearly got a game that should be able to transfer onto all courts. Like she shouldn't just be a hardcore player. I think like she's got a good enough game. What's your feeling around her in terms of like her expectations for Wimbledon? Because like when she was talking to you, she kind of was saying, look, it was almost like take it one day at a time. Like don't really have like huge expectations or get disappointed. But obviously I'm ambitious and I want to win, but I'm not going to let it kind of drag me down. If that makes sense. From what I heard. But what's your take on it?
I think my take is that she says she's in a great place, and it seems like she is. And the big takeaway is she says, the losses now just motivate her to get on the court the next day and want to get better instead of just, she said beforehand she would have to take a few days and she'd just like stay in bed and like it was, it was like really she felt bad about herself when she lost, which obviously it's normal to feel disappointed and sad when you lose. Like like Rafa, Nadal, Djokovic are all going to be, very upset when they lose big matches. But yeah, it's the ability to turn it around and not take it as part of your identity, obviously, or judge yourself. And now it seems like she's doing that. I think it can be great on the grass. And if you watched her match against Pliskova yesterday, she should have won that match. She was serving for the match, and she was really the better player for the last 2 sets. She broke Pliskova's serve 4 times, which on grass is pretty insane. Pliskova made this Wimbledon final last year. So her game is she's just so talented. Like that's like goes without saying. She won the US Open, and I would be very surprised if that's the only major she wins. Like I think she's much more talented than Emma Raducanu. Sorry to say, face that for the Brits, but I think she's actually like quite a bit more talented and like quite a bit better game. And I think when they get back to that level, or when she gets back to her full confidence, it'll show. And it's on grass. I think it's great because she's with her new coach, Sven Groenveld, who's a very experienced coach. She's learned to like really, come up in the court and come forward a lot better and just be more, she's always been creative with her game, but the amount she came forward against Pliskova, and then she ended up winning, I think 20 out of 28 points at the net yesterday. Super good. So I think, she can do great at the grass. And she's a great interviewee, and she's been very nice to us, like really fun to talk with. And she's like doesn't just give out pro answers. And the interviewer, I think, has a lot to do with it. You got to like ask not normal, basic, boring questions. And that's what I try and do. But we've done 2 interviews now, and I feel like, she's a definite friend of the show, and she's cool. So we definitely cheer for Bianca Andreescu over here because she's a great person and great player. Because really, like, in your opinion, on the WTA, who is like has a higher ceiling than her?
Yeah, no, I'm
sure there's some, like Iga Swiatek, like there's a couple, but it's a small handful, right? Like she's one of the top talents. Like
agreed. Like she's probably top in terms of ceilings. I would say maybe top 5. In terms of like the younger players, definitely. And I think she's got a more complete game than Raducanu at the moment. That's the thing. I think Raducanu, what she does is she has certain aspects of her game that are very good, but she doesn't have a particularly all round kind of like complete game. Whereas I feel like Andreescu's her foundations, let's say, are better than Raducanu's generally. If that makes sense. And so her ceiling will come from consistency, I guess. And she talked about that, I guess, on your interview about her serve, for example. And I guess that probably like reared its head yesterday because she broke Pliskova 4 times, but obviously ended up losing the match, right? So it means that her serve isn't like maybe is being as reliable as she would like. But 9-7 in a tiebreaker, I mean, can happen to anyone as well. That's the other thing.
And she served for it, and then the crazy thing is she hadn't lost a point in the 3rd set on her serve, like 17 points in a row before that final game, and then it was like 2 double faults and like an unforced error. So it's definitely some nerves. Which is normal because you're coming back, you want it so bad when you're coming back and you're ranked like 70 in the world and you have to win matches to get your ranking up and stuff. So super close match.
Agreed. Yeah, Vanch says Delgado is on a trial basis by the way, Raducanu. So it says, sorry, recent article says she's considering Delgado. Cool. I don't know. Yeah, exactly.
I'm like, take that job at your own peril, sir.
Yeah, exactly.
Anyways, we don't have to get on that.
Cool. Let's get to some of the questions then. So Tushar says, what are Rafa's chances at Wimbledon if he plays, and how important is it for Djokovic to win to keep up with Rafa in the slam race?
Tushar, great question. Thanks for the question. I don't think Rafa's chances are that good at Wimbledon, but I didn't think they were very good at the Australian Open. So I'm always happy to be surprised. But I think if Rafa and Novak play at Wimbledon, it would be quite heavily favored Novak. And I think there's just a ton of guys who could be like, if Berrettini played Rafa at Wimbledon right now, I'd take Berrettini. Not as high, I would say, but definitely able to do it. I also, that's the surface where he moves the least well. So we'll see how his foot is at. And I think for Djokovic personally, it's super important for him to keep up with Rafa in the slam race. Like he's the only one out of the big 3 who's talked about the records mattering to him, basically. So he cares about that. And if he doesn't win Wimbledon, I still feel like he's got years left where he can be very competitive. So I still feel like he's going to end up with the most. But if he doesn't win Wimbledon, it'll be a lot of more pressure. It'll be very interesting because then he won't. If he doesn't win Wimbledon, he won't be holding any of the slams for the first time in probably like a long, long time.
Yeah, that's true. It's big. I think it's big. It's big.
Yeah, I think he'll have more pressure there. But I also feel like the field is so weak. There's really no other way to say it for me like that. On grass at Wimbledon for him. Like last year, it was like, I think we talked after last year's Wimbledon. It was like one of the easiest slams that one of the big three's won in a long time. They've all had easier runs to the slams. I know there's like Federer 2018 Australian Open, Rafa 2019 US Open, I would say maybe, and 2017 US Open. But I just think the field, the grass season is so short. All the young guys don't know how to play on it.
Yeah,
so it just makes it so that Djokovic has a massive competitive advantage against those guys.
Yeah,
and he uses that well.
Agreed. Yeah, the more experienced players definitely have an advantage because of like the missed year as well at Wimbledon. So these younger players who are like next gen, they've missed a whole year of like grass court stuff, which doesn't help as well. And as you said, it's a short swing. Gene says, what are your Wimbledon favorites in order right now? I think he said top 5.
Yeah, Novak. Oh, it's tough because Zverev and Medvedev are out, and those are two guys who I would have had like pretty high up there, So yeah, it's even worse this year. So yeah, I'd say Novak and then Rafa if he's healthy, and then I would put Berrettini, Tsitsipas, Felix Auger-Aliassime.
Okay, interesting. No Alcaraz.
Yeah, probably. Even it's Alcaraz too. I like forget about him now, but again, we don't know. I don't know. With Alcaraz, like he likes the ball. Again, he can hit the ball shoulder height as well as anyone, and I think he likes that. And on grass, you're just not getting as many balls up there. So we'll see. I think he's right up there as well. Like Carlos's top 7 for sure threats at Wimbledon.
Yeah.
No, agreed. Blood Dragon says, will Roger Federer play Wimbledon one more time? That's one for you as a Roger fan.
Yes, he will. He will. I mean, barring like more injuries, like he's going to come back this year, and I think he'll play until Wimbledon next year. Maybe do like a retirement thing at Wimbledon next year, which I think would be epic.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah. And how do you think Andreescu will do? What do you think? I guess if you were to predict where she ends up, draw plays a massive part. But if you were to predict, I guess.
Yeah, draw plays a huge part because she's ranked like 70 in the world now. So it's she can get Pliskova first round, but she showed yesterday that she can definitely beat Pliskova, who's one of the top players on grass. So I think she can beat anyone on grass. So it depends on the thing, but I would not be surprised if she made like 4th round, quarterfinals type thing. You never know, but she always gets into these 3-set matches, right? Like she'll be like win the first set, lose the second set, or like lose the first set and then like come back to win it. So she's often rides the line a bit too much. And I think on grass, there's not as much room for error as she found out yesterday, because it can be harder to break serve, even though it's less hard to break serve in the women's game for sure. And Bianca's an amazing returner. So
agreed. It says one feast dark horse.
No. At Wimbledon, I don't think he's a dark horse anywhere anymore. It's just like sad. Like it's not sad. Like he's a great. I mean, he was playing.
Made the quarters, didn't he? Made the quarters of the US Open, wasn't it? Yeah.
When was that? Last year.
Last year, yeah. We lost to Berrettini in 4 sets. He was very, very close there.
Wasn't that the year before?
No, last year. Because Berrettini beat Monfils and he played Rafa in the semis. And
no, that was definitely the year before. That was
no. Sorry, I'm talking about Australia. Am I talking about Australia? Australia,
maybe no, but Berrettini and Monfils did have an epic, I think, quarters in. Yeah, it was the 2019 U.S. Open because Rafa played Berrettini in the semifinal. And he played Medvedev in the final.
Sorry, it's a 5-setter Australian Open this year.
Oh, okay,
quarterfinal. Yeah.
Monfils
so he made the quarters Australian Open this year.
I know, but that's like quarters is like not, that's good. That's good for him, unfortunately. But I feel like, at the beginning of his career, you would have hoped that quarters wouldn't have been a good result.
Yeah, no, agreed. Agree. Jesus, do you think Swiatek is beatable at Wimbledon? I know she's probably the huge favorite, but I don't know if she can keep it up. Someone said to me that, look, they think that Swiatek is like Swiatek versus the field at Roland Garros, but at Wimbledon, it's like the field versus Swiatek, as in like you take the field maybe over Swiatek, but you wouldn't pick a specific person. What's your view on it?
Yeah, I think I'd probably take this field over Swiatek at Wimbledon, but it is still like that. But I think there's like definitely players who could like beat her, and it's a totally different surface where she hasn't really proved herself yet. So it'll be very interesting to see. It's definitely like there was no doubt in my mind that she would win the French Open from before the tournament started, basically. And I think that's definitely different than on grass, like at Wimbledon. So I think there's players who could beat her, like Pliskova, Andreescu, Sabalenka. Oh, well, she won't be there, so never mind. So ridiculous. So like Halep, who's been historically good on grass. Like there's a lot of players there who could.
Yeah, Serena.
I think Serena. I'm like, the Serena circus. I don't know what's going on there. We'll see if she shows up.
We'll see.
But we'll see. She can. Swiatek's probably the favorite. Yeah, definitely got to be the favorite. And I think her game, the way she hits and stays over on the baseline, anyways, like you just feel like she's going to be good on grass. But maybe it'll get tricky. You never know.
Agreed. Cool. Last one then. Gene says, do you think somebody like Kyrgios could be a dangerous opponent for Novak or Rafa in the early rounds?
Absolutely, yeah. In the early rounds is the nightmare for them because he could, what happens if he wins the first 2 sets? Like I know he's out of shape. Like he's not that out of shape actually, and like I know he's probably not going to go a physical 5-setter, but if he gets I think against Rafa, he could be a serious threat. Obviously he beat him before at Wimbledon. They did play in 2019, I think, and Rafa was feeling good that year, and he just beat him straight up. So, yeah. And against Djokovic, yeah, there'd be a big mental game as well because, Kyrgios would be bringing the fire, and he's beat him. He's 2-0 against Novak, so it'd be very interesting. But Kyrgios, I could honestly see making like quarters or semis at Wimbledon this year, like having his best ever run because he's focused and he's smart. His game's developed, and he's made semis at Stuttgart, losing a close one to Murray. And he's in the quarters now at Halle, playing well again. So we'll see. It's always you never know with Nick, but it's always fun to watch. That's for sure.
I think to be honest with you, Rafa and Novak will both not want Nick in their half or quarter or section, even if that makes sense, because we don't know how far he's actually going to go. But and sorry, let's one last one then, and then we'll wrap up if that's okay. What are your thoughts on Korda? Such a talented player, but he lost to Buster. Do you think he's overrated a bit?
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe a bit overrated, but I don't know. His serve is not good enough for how tall he is. Like I walked by him in Monte Carlo, and he's literally so tall. He's like 6'5", but he looks like he's like 7 feet tall. Like he's like a tall dude. His toss is like way too high. So it's inconsistent. So yeah, I don't know. Like he's a bit passive and kind of like, I don't know. Once you get to a top 30, like you're an unbelievably good player, and like your career is already a success. So it's like the problem that we all have, and I definitely have, is like every new player that comes up, I'm like, how many slams is this guy going to win? It's like, that's winning a slam is hard to do. Winning multiple slams, like Djokovic, like it's just like none of these guys, I'm saying, including Carlos, will ever get to the level of Federer, Nadal, Djokovic, in my opinion. It's been insane to watch the commentary around Carlos. Like he's won some great, he's beaten Novak and Rafa, but they are 36 now. He's not beating Rafa and Novak when they're 24, right? Like, let's be honest. So he's won some Masters this year, but to think that he's now going to win 20 slams is like ridiculous, but he will win slams. Let's say that. But Korda, is maybe a bit overrated, but he's still super young and has all the tools to be like an elite player. So I wouldn't. Yeah, I'm never gonna call. So I'm not calling him overrated. I'm never gonna call a young guy like that overrated because they still got so much left to prove.
Yeah. Black Dragon says Casper is a 30. This is insane. Yeah, it's true.
That is insane. That is preposterous.
True. It's funny. It's funny. Yeah. Do you have a question? Do I have a question for you? If that's okay.
Yeah.
Last one is on the seedings, I guess, because at Roland Garros, right, the whole of the top half was stacked. And my view on it is that they should change it so that it's a combination of rankings and like previous like results at that slam. I think Wimbledon used to do that, but they stopped doing it. What's your view on it?
I don't know, because I probably don't agree with that. I like in the older days, I think they do 32 seeds now at the tournament, right? So they used to only do 16. So that means like the 17th ranked player could play the first ranked player in the first round. So it was like way more of a gamble. That has helped Novak, Rafa, and Federer be so consistent at the slams over these years, because most of their career has been played when they're going to play a qualifier or someone ranked very low in the first round or two and just get into the slams, right? So there's less like top 20 guys that you're going to play in the first or second round, which used to be like pretty common. Like if you look at like, yeah, like the early rounds of like some of those majors in like 2002, it'd be like top 20 guys playing each other in like the first or second round at a slam, which has never happened like in the current system, right? So I don't mind the draw. Like people are getting so mad that like, and like I've heard like really, people like Patrick McEnroe say that they have to change it. It's like, I don't know. No, they don't. It's like Rafa and Djokovic playing in the quarters is like, yeah, it's bad for the tournament, but that's just like, it's why it's called a draw, I feel like. Yeah. And I just feel like
it's good in a way though, because it means that they've got more chance of playing, right? I guess each other rather than getting upset. I guess that's the other thing as well.
Yeah, that's true. Like, yeah, if they were set to meet in the final, honestly, Rafa or Novak could have like lost before the final, so you never know. But I don't know. It's a tough one, and I could see it. I could see both sides to it for sure, especially with the clay ranking. It's like, yeah, it's pretty ridiculous for Rafa to be outside of the top 4 at Roland Garros ever. Yeah. So in that case, yeah, maybe they should take. I would take in the clay ranking. I guess I'm talking about maybe something different than you're talking about. Like I would take in, maybe I would be okay with taking into the clay ranking like they used to at Wimbledon.
Yeah, so it'll just be a mix, right? So you take in the rankings, and then you say, okay, well, Rafa's won 13 Roland Garros. So what he was like ranked, I think, was he number 6 seed, right? 5. I think it's 5.
6, I think, yeah.
He's 6. Okay, so let's say, okay, well, he's won 30 Roland Garros, so maybe we move him up 2 spots, for example. He's not going to be number 1, but he might be 4 or 3. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Like it does make a difference. Like Federer, for example, right? Like if he was to play this year, would he be seeded because he's won it so many times? I don't know. Like, should he be seeded or no? Like, I don't know. But his rankings are obviously terrible at the moment. So like that, but then it kind of gives you like an option, right? So
that's a tough one. That's a very tough one. So I don't know. I don't know. I think it should maybe stay the same, but like, because now it's just because you also don't want to penalize guys who play full seasons. Like so Zverev's like rightfully earned. He's in the top 4 ranking, so now he's going to drop out of the top 4 seeding and have less chance at the French Open because of that. It's like I don't know. I think all the tinkering with the rankings needs to stop for sure, and the rankings has become so like almost like meaningless in the last 2 years because like it's been changed by everything, the pandemic, like the war in Ukraine, like everything's like affected the rankings and made it not like it used to be. So I don't know. I'm team stay the same.
Yeah, no, fair enough. Cool. Well, thanks so much, Stephen. I know you've got a train or plane or something to catch.
Yeah.
So yeah, enjoy Mallorca. Even if you're not going to see tennis, enjoy at least a bit of time off anyway. And yeah, the sunshine, I'm sure it'll be baking out there as well. Hopefully very nice. Yeah. Which will be good. But yeah, thanks everyone as well.
I appreciate it. And QualityShot community, it's been awesome to be here. Appreciate you guys, and you guys are a lot of fun. So we'll see you again soon.
Yeah. Make sure you check out Stephen's channel, of course, the Slice Tennis, and also on our socials as well. At the Slice. Cool. Thanks very much, Stephen. Really appreciate it, guys. Stay safe and well. Remember to hit that like button, subscribe if you're new. We'll see you on the next video.
See you guys.